Right now, we're going to be looking at one of the most milquetoast videos that I've ever seen on the whole beef between Hasan Piker and Ethan Klein. We're doing that because I found this video entertaining, and I have way more knowledge on this whole situation than I would like to. So the video in question is called A Nuanced Conversation on H3 and Public Perception by the YouTuber Mika's Rhetoric. And by all accounts, a lot of her other videos are very good. They're very well researched, very well sourced. This video is kind of the opposite of that. And I'm still kind of struggling to understand why it was made in the first place. So she starts off by front loading this with like 6 minutes of disclaimers that I don't think are necessary at all. She says things like she wants to like have a job teaching high school someday, and she's worried that a video like this might hurt her chances at that. And I promise you that nothing in this video would even get noticed by a job, much less would they care. I think that she has seen kind of the backlash that people like Frogan or Denims has gotten, and thinks that that might be something that happens to her. And as we go on, I think that she sees it as it's because they are pro-Palestinian, that is the backlash that they're getting. And that's not the case at all, specifically in like Frogan and Denim's situation. She also makes sure to say that she has been pro-Palestine for the last year, which is not a long time to really be very well informed about the whole situation. But everybody's activated on causes or situations at different times. There's nothing wrong with that, but it has only been a year for her. And she also says that she is very sensitive to anti-Semitism and condemns anti-Semitism. But overall, she seems like just deathly afraid that she's going to get a lot of backlash for this. And I feel like she kind of will, but really just because of the flaws in her logic and her not really sourcing her arguments. She kind of sources some like more petty arguments, but for like the bigger claims, she doesn't really source anything that she's talking about. So like this video is going to make the rounds on the commentary community. People are going to talk about it, and that's going to be it. It's going to blow over. As long as she doesn't do like a Jake Doolittle or Jake Weddle crash out for a video not being well received, then she's going to be fine. Right. So I just wanted to kind of condense all that intro. You can go watch the full video, make sure that I'm representing it properly, or if I might have missed anything. But we're going to start when she gets into the conversation, quote unquote.
And my student teaching internships. So that's why I'm saying these things in advance. Okay. Now, I have the lineup of how I think this started from the inception of the podcast to now. So this will be, I guess, a chapter. I'll talk now. I have my disclaimer, my politics, and then whatever. Okay. And if people think that I'm weak in that regard as well, I understand, honestly. And I also have like a pretty, like, I know, bringing my mental health is very silly, but again, I just want to be honest, right? I have a pretty intense anxiety disorder, and the only time I've contemplated quitting the internet with like certainty was in reference to discussing Ethan Klein before, and I was treated in a way that maybe allegedly in Minecraft could be considered harassment.
She uses this several times, the Minecraft meme, and I don't think she understands how that's supposed to be used. But yeah, she referenced in the beginning too, like her mental health being poor, especially like talking about Ethan. And I don't know why you would do that if that's an issue for you, especially with such a milquetoast take as this is going to be. And it really adds nothing to any of the conversation that's happened over the past year regarding this situation. So I don't know. I feel like she has followed this and it's just really bugged her, and she just wanted to put this video out there. But it's not really like a brave take on anything. It's very safe, very milquetoast. I disagree with a lot of what she says, and a lot of what she said is just straight up wrong. And again, as I said, she like sources some of her like more petty claims, but doesn't for like the bigger ones, which is surprising because like she is a like I believe like a student teacher. She wants to be like a high school teacher someday, and she would 100% fail a student for bringing an essay like this to her. So I find that interesting.
Because they were making an account where they were dedicated to like saying all this stuff about me and how evil I am. And then they were DMing people that I'd worked with on other videos that I was this horrible, evil, morally corrupt individual and all this stuff. When we talk about the inception of the podcast, it was not responded to well for a long time. And this has been discussed by many different videos at length, including so I was watching I always know that I'm right when I have the opposite opinion of Nicholas DiOrio, because I was watching Ethan Klein's video or the H3 podcast episode about, and I haven't watched it in like a year, so this was like shocking to see these like vast differences, different setup, different show, everything like that. Chatting in about Dan Clancy or whatever, like the CEO of Twitch, and being like, oh, Ethan's gonna get all the tankies. So, but I was like, man, when I'm watching it and I'm having trouble getting through it because I'm just cringing so hard, and then my bestie comes in and is like, you're slaying, I'm like, okay, so I'm right. Anyway.
None of that made any sense to me. I don't know what any of that meant.
When the podcast came out, a lot of people criticized Ethan for being really unprofessional.
Okay, so again, for like a long time here, all she does is front load with a bunch of lore for the podcast, which, and like a lot of the controversies that Ethan has gone through, things that have been adjudicated like 4 or 5 years ago. If you still like agree with those criticisms and you don't like Ethan Klein, that's fine. But it's like, we get it. Like this is old news. It's been discussed. Ethan has addressed it, and it is utterly irrelevant to going into like Hasan and Ethan's beef. So I don't know. Like her first point that she brings up here in a second is bonkers. I don't understand.
There was also a lot of really famous clips that came out of there, such as Ethan Klein being like, iDubbbz, I love that you say the N-word, and then just saying the N-word a bunch of times. The clip with Joji saying that women were at the time was still doing stuff on the internet, I think, as Filthy Frank, saying that women were made to be submissive to men.
Or apes or whatever, right? Our Neanderthal.
All right, so like I said here, like this is where she's going to put clips in. This is where she sources stuff, and she doesn't do so when she starts making heavier claims later on, which I like. If you're not going to source anything and you're just going to yap, that's fine. But if you're going to source some things and not others, especially when the other stuff is like deep, heavy stuff, like I feel like I need sources for that, especially when she is going to be as wrong as she is coming up here.
Cousins were probably just like crazy. So there's definitely something like in us to like conquer. Men want to like conquer.
Right.
So it's, women are in a nature setting, like to be conquered.
There was also the clip where Ethan Klein was talking about Jewish people in Israel and commenting on their hygiene and commenting on some things that should not have been commented on in the way that they were.
The Jew, well, and I mean Ashkenazi Jews were all inbred. That's why we all have all these
Really?
neurological diseases.
Holy shit.
Because back in the day, we had our little village and we fucking ran around in our little suits.
Like
And
Amish.
nobody wanted us, so we're like, well, we'll f each other. And to be honest, there's like stinky suit wearing, like, bro, you have to be very generous to fuck Hasidic Jew, right?
How would I know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll
Mike gonna
tell you.
say to that?
I mean, well, I've lived in Israel for 5 years, so they wear the suits, they got the hats, they don't shower nearly enough. When it's 1,000,000 degrees outside, They rock the black suit. They stink, bro. They stink. And you know they don't shave. You've seen their face. Imagine what their dicks look like.
Wait, I always thought those were like fake.
No,
Those are real?
Those aren't extensions.
Those are real.
Those are all.
That is commitment. I guess, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Their faces look so gnarly. So imagine what these dudes look naked, and they're all pretty fat, too, because that wife's at home cooking. That's all she does.
Not all fat.
Well, a lot of the ones you see are pretty chunky.
Can
Can we get a picture? Yeah, let's see this.
Yeah.
I'll be the judge of how hot they are.
Harry.
Or Jack's films. Yeah, a lot of his other early stuff with the live show was unhinged. I feel like that's kind of like growing pains of a commentary YouTuber from the era that Ethan came from. Trying to transition into live is this is what you're gonna get. You know, like if iDubbbz had done the same thing, you would get a lot of the same stuff. If a lot of people from back in the day try to do a live show like this is what would happen. And however you feel about Ethan is I don't care. If you don't like him, that's fine. If you do like him, that's fine. If you think that he has just changed for like business reasons to try to be brand safe, that's fine. I don't care. If you think that he has actually turned a new leaf and changed directions, that's fine too. I don't care. I am like a casual enjoyer of the show. I have been for like the last year and a half or so. I listen to stuff all day long at my day job. And the show can be like a nice palate cleanser between like listening to politics stuff or foreign politics. And so I don't have like strong opinions on Ethan Klein as a person either way, but I am a casual enjoyer of the show. I'm not that interested in what happened 4 or 5 years ago.
No. You asked for it.
So those clips were already coming out. And then also there was criticism that the podcast was boring. I remember the episodes with just Hila and Ethan being quite boring back then, especially that the guests were kind of all that it was. And people were really upset that they were no longer making the H3 Productions videos, which were their most popular and most liked content to this day. Progressively, as Ethan Klein started hiring more people, you started getting kind of like a co-host dynamic almost. So it's like you have now Dan, the producer, you have Ian,
Dan the hoe,
you have Zach. That was the crew for a long time. Circa 2020, whatever, they hired AB and Lena, who are both Lebanese, and this is going to become relevant soon. Then you also have the hiring, who were also fans of Ethan's. He hired AB because AB ran defense for him when another creator named Gokanaru made a really long, pretty okay, actually, like I remember liking it even back then, hit piece on Ethan Klein. And then AB ran defense for him as Star Killer with like a mask on or whatever on a video, and he hired AB and hired Lena as personal assistant. Then you get also hiring Cameron Grants, who was making memes on their subreddit a lot to do design work. Hiring Sam, who used to be dating Ian, to do graphic design stuff for him and set design, that kind of stuff. Then you have hiring of another fan, Olivia, who does writing. I'm sneering because I'm just trying to remember like what because she kind of does everything, so I'm not trying to remember her role. She seemed to do research and writing stuff mostly. Then you have also the hiring of Swedish, another fan, Love, who does social media. I think that's right. Yeah, so Olivia does. Is that everybody? Now there's a new guy named Nathan.
It's like I don't know. I feel like this could be a little better prepared. Like I get that it's off the cuff, and a lot of my videos are off the cuff. But like, if you can't like remember something, you could just like pause the recording, go look it up, and then do another take of that specific line or whatever. I don't know.
Ethan or something. No idea who he is. Anyway, as they hired these people, and a lot of them being quite young, a lot of them being like Gen Z. I think Love and I are like born the same year, born a couple months apart. And I'm 24, by the way. You start having these, like, I found, you started getting a lot more of these people who were much more progressive, politically progressive and ideologically progressive than Ethan. AB and Lena. Because Zach So Ian doesn't say shit. Like, Ian's like hiding. Okay, so we don't know about Ian. But you have, and then Dan seems to, I think Dan is very left-leaning, but Dan also doesn't respond to criticism well. So when he has maybe socially conservative, even to a certain degree, like opinions on things, and then people push back, he, like Ethan, will kind of view it as the entire left's opinion on this entire subject and then just be pushed away.
So that's not true. First off, Dan is like, I think he's the one that's like most open about his views in general, and he is a communist, and he seems like the kind of communist that I could vibe with. I vibe with a lot of leftists more so than like liberals, but also there's a lot of leftists that I can't vibe with. But yeah, so he, like, the idea that he is in any way like socially conservative, like, I would need sources for that. You need to show me, like, because you're just like going off the cuff here and like kind of pulling stuff out of your ass. He is not socially conservative in any way. And I wouldn't say that he doesn't handle conflict well. I feel like he, like, being the producer, is just very like cognizant of optics, I guess. And so he generally tries to like diffuse conflict, stuff like that. And I think that he does have like a pretty good pulse on like where leftism is. And yeah, like, he's a leftist himself, so like he doesn't like hate all of leftism or think that like all of them are this way. Like, he is an advocate for leftism on this show. So this is not good research or insight on her part.
And then Zach, I would say, is somewhat on the more socially conservative side.
Why? Based off of what? Like, a lot of the other crew members are not as like vocal about their particular political beliefs. So there may be some that are more leftist, there may be some that are more on the liberal side, but all of them are very progressive. Zach seems to be more willing to make like edgy jokes here and there, but I just haven't seen anything that would suggest that any of them are socially conservative. And I don't even know if she is like, I don't want to accuse her of not knowing like what that means, but I don't know.
This is just how I'm gauging them. I could be completely wrong. This is a discussion again. So, but what I'm saying is that environment was pretty stable in a sort of awakened centrist / center left vibe, right? Now, when you started hiring AB and Lena, who are Lebanese, who have been affected by a lot of these conflicts in the Middle East, even though I think they're both born in the United States, but their Lena's parents, for example, were recently in Lebanon, etc. Olivia, who seems to be quite progressive and is very, ideologically and socially left-leaning. I don't know what Love's doing. He doesn't say much. Cameron also seemed to be a pretty progressive person. Sam as well. So you started having this sort of environment that was fostering these ideas more openly. And when you have your researcher, who is a sort of kind of left-leaning person, and AB as well was also doing research, you start to kind of, your content begins to tilt. And then...
I disagree on that front, because like the research that they're doing is not like... They're just finding stories and like summarizing them or providing links for Ethan to click on, and he goes through it and reacts to it and gives his commentary on it. It's his commentary. And so like they do tend to find more like conservative leaning people to clown on, but really it's like it runs the gambit. They clown on leftists, they clown on liberal people. It has much more to do with just like the world of drama and pop culture, stuff like that. So I just don't think that the research in particular would necessarily have much of an impact on how the content shifts. they're just putting together a docket every show of relevant news for Ethan to go through. That's pretty much it.
You get to the debate era where Ethan Klein was debating Pearl from Just Pearly Things. He debated the guy who's claimed that he cured Tourette's. There was also the debate that he debated Fresh and Fit, I believe, at some point. There was, which I didn't watch that. I think I had already checked out at that point. There was also, there were just a bunch of a lot of them in the beginning were people I didn't really know. I think that might be why I can't remember all of them. But anyway, there was these debates, right? And then streamer Hasan Piker was reacting to them because it was the same sort of universe of content creators that he was against himself. From the debates of the Red Pill guys, where a lot of the defenses tend to have to be these kind of left-leaning ideologies, Ethan Klein presented to a more left-leaning audience. And left-leaning audiences really like to watch people get dunked on like that. I think the very first one, which involved Hasan as well, was actually talking to Aiden Ross about gambling. So now you get the show Leftovers, which ended essentially right after the events that occurred on October 7th, which has kind of led to a lot of the downfall. But I think something that a lot of people were not considering was there was quite a few small spikes that began hitting people. And I don't want to reveal the exact comments that I found, so you can take my word for it or you cannot, just because I don't even want to start getting into any of the identities on the Snark Reddit or any of that kind of stuff, because Ethan's going to go buck wild.
So if she's on the Snark Reddit at all, that's a big red flag. The Snark Reddit is... I have an opposition to any sort of Snark Reddit, but H3's in particular is utterly psychotic. I was banned off of there a year or more ago, trying to, it was fresh, and I got baited into talking about the, what was going on between Hasan and Ethan. And there were so many people that were talking about it that just utterly disconnected from any of the reality of things that Ethan had said or the actual positions that he held. And so they would say things like he refuses to call it a genocide, and then I would show them clips where he called it a genocide and condemned it as such, and then they would just move the goalpost to something else, and it was just utterly unproductive and disconnected from reality. And so I'm sure there's normal fine people on there, but the majority of it is very obsessed, psychotic, not healthy at all. And so I would not be sourcing anything from the Snark Reddit.
Wild on that if it ever gets anywhere. I've been reading there was a post about being a fallen fan, which is what Ethan Klein refers to people who no longer like his content. I guess technically by that design I would also be a fallen fan. But the juxtaposition that Ethan Klein often puts towards fallen fans are people who are borderline neo-Nazis. These sort of people who really liked conservative content, they liked anti-SJW stuff, they really hated leftists, they whatever. That was who he used to position mainly as these fallen fans. But now...
Yeah, so I think a lot of his early fans from H3H3 Productions, when he did his YouTube videos, he definitely had a more right-leaning audience, which was much more into the edgy comedy and some of the anti-SJW content that he made. And when he shifted into being more progressive, he kind of shed a lot of those fans, and he is now kind of shedding more radical parts of his left-wing fan base as well.
You have fallen fans that are those left-leaning people, which now Ethan Klein often refers to as extremists, which is being often quite inappropriately used.
I disagree. I think a lot of these people are extremists.
So a lot of the people brought up these other instances besides the recent, what people are referring to as the Hasan Piker crash out, which I'll get into soon. And I want to go through those events to remind people what they were, to sort of maybe place people in where they started feeling a disconnect with the content. So the first thing I could think of, which is not something that many people really brought up, and this is going to sound really crazy to come out of my mouth, but the prolapse fixation is
Right. This was like her first point. I don't know what this has to do with anything at all. I don't know.
issue. It is. She's an issue. For one, you have the issue of, that's kind of gross. So what happened with this is it started with Howie Mandel just raw posting a prolapse on TikTok, where it was someone prolapsing through a pair of shorts or something, and he was like, what's going on? Is this COVID or something? So which it became a meme because everybody's like, Howie Mandel, the known like germaphobe or whatever, plus like just
known germaphobe,
beloved TV host, just not having any idea what he's looking at. He says he thought he sat on something, which I guess kind of makes sense in context because there's no other universe where Howie Mandel would just be doing that. It was like a boomer gets TikTok moment, and it was quite wholesome and funny, right? But then what ended up happening was Ethan Klein became obsessed with this and started showing this to everybody, the TikTok to everybody and stuff. But then also got involved with this sex worker named Hunger FF, who was really famous for utilizing his prolapse rear end to make content. And what he would do is he would sit people down and force them to watch this content when they were being interviewed by him.
That's not true. Yeah, he did show them but like they had the option to not watch it. So I don't know what you want to. If you have a problem with it, that's fine, I guess. But like, I don't think it's like a major mark against Ethan here.
So he did it to Howie, which I guess sort of contextually makes sense. I think he might have had him do it in person, which is even worse. Then he showed, but so I mean, I guess to a certain degree you can go, yeah, that's like the joke, right? Like that was the guy who did it.
Yeah,
but why was he
the
showing
joke.
Stavros? Why was he
The guy from Town that's hilarious and likes edgy shit?
Is that his name? I think so. That's how you pronounce it. Why is Brittany Broski have to watch this?
I just sent it. This is the
'Cause it's
video I was
funny.
saying I was worried that you were going to show, and you were like, I wouldn't show that.
Why would I do that? What kind of psycho do you think I am? All right, you're not showing the screen, right, Ian?
You're just going to show me?
Yeah, well, if I show this at home, I'd be banned on all.
Well, girl, we're halfway there.
All right, so it's only a minute long. Okay? It says.
It's a minute. It's 10 seconds.
Yeah. But maybe you can bail whenever you want, but it gets better towards the end. So it says, "Is this COVID related?" Yeah.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Wait, did you not see this, Hila?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
What?
Wait. Look. Wait, don't make me look at this by myself.
This, like, actually. Ah!
No, stop. You're
It's
crazy.
hairy. Oh, that's making me gag, bitch.
That's actually our friend of the show, Hunger FF.
I love hunger.
Why are we making Anthony Fantano see this? Right?
Because it's funny. And they liked it. They thought it was funny too.
Why is this being forced? This is not comfortable content. This is not, they're not really consenting to this a lot of the time. I feel like there's definitely like a element of feeling like a coercion because of the interview space.
None of him had thought that or said that. So that's, if you personally have an issue with it, that's fine. But it's not like a thing against Ethan.
And the crew will often push back on this as well. There's also the event, and this leans into the next thing too, which some people refer to as bottom gate, where linking to this prolapse thing too, people have really felt that Ethan Klein was, how do I say this, inappropriately pushing homosexual men as inappropriate, maybe? Not inappropriate, like he doesn't believe in it, but it was like a joke, kind of, And then there was this whole conversation, and I never watched this episode because I think they started it, and I got so cringed out that I just stopped watching. And this was something that I noticed was common with watching H3.
So like a lot of this is like, okay, like you didn't even watch it. Why are we bringing this up? Where are you sourcing this info from? It sounds like maybe a like compilation on Snark Reddit. I don't know. Yeah, I do remember this. Like a gay guy called in, and I think he was talking about like maybe having an issue showing the prolapse or something. He had an issue with something, and then Ethan just asked very invasive questions about being a bottom, something like that. I think it was inappropriate. He has apologized for it. Is what it is.
A lot of people go, yeah, I couldn't finish the episode. It was like too cringe. I'm like, well, then why are we watching it, Queen? Because I watch a lot of other people, I don't cringe out of their content halfway through ever. If I
Because it's entertaining. Ethan does make me cringe sometimes, and sometimes he is unhinged, but that's the entertaining part of it. It's unpredictable. It's funny. That's the show. It's not like a prepared and edited YouTube video. It's live, and people are going to do dumb stuff live sometimes. And if you don't like it, that's fine.
I kind of never watch them again. So what's happening with this? You know, I've never watched like a ContraPoints video, been like so icked that I need to leave, or I've never watched like a Smokey Glow video, or a Megan Ann video, or an Adam McIntyre video, or even like a Foodie Beauty Girl World reaction channel video, or where I've just been so icked that I need to like bounce. You know, so what happened essentially was they were talking about like tops and bottoms and that whole concept, and then the chat was pushing back, being like, hey, like this is starting to sound kind of homophobic or whatever. Dan starts yelling at them, Ethan starts yelling at them, and everybody is really like annoyed about this combativeness where people were just trying to kind of push you in a right direction. So that icked out a lot of people, and I saw that on the Snark Reddit too when there was the post of like, why did you stop watching the show? A lot of people brought up that. This also was something where he said that if there's another Holocaust.
So the way he described it as, and I feel like this is BS, but something to do with his Tourette's, and like when he gets like a compulsion to like a thought in his head to do something, like he just feels compelled to do it, or like if something is like gonna make him laugh or something, like he just can't control himself. And so I don't know how much truth there is to that. I can relate to being compulsive and not reacting appropriately in context to certain situations. There's sometimes where, you know, people act different ways in different situations, and sometimes they can't control that, and that is a thing that happens. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like his like apology and explanation for that was kind of all over the place, though. This next thing with the Ben Shapiro, like objectively hilarious and based and true, and he is a Jewish man, so if he wants to make that joke, that's totally fine with me. And so Ben Shapiro wants to buddy up with you know, neo-Yazis, you know, whatever.
That Ben Shapiro should go first. That's what Ethan Klein said, and I disavow this as a concept, obviously. So that was another event that he considered, that goblin mode thing. So he ended up getting this like broadcasting button where Ethan could push it, and it would cut the last 15 seconds, similar to like a censor button on live television. So instead of really addressing, I found, the QT Cinderella stuff, he kind of boiled it down to this like goblin mode, right? Then crew members started leaving in the last year. First Cameron Grants, and then Sam. Cameron said that he received another job. He received a job offer closer to where he's from, Massachusetts, and he was moving back, and he also just really, really hated living in California. Now,
people like psychoanalyze the shit out of all of them, and they all think that like Ethan is this like horrible person who like treats his employees like shit. That they really act like the H3 crew has no agency at all. And it's just very weird, and they like psychoanalyze why they left, and who fucking knows? Who fucking cares? It's a waste of time, and it's weird to obsess over that. It you know, they are their own people, they have their own agency, and if the work relationship there is bad, they have the ability to leave, to move, or to you know, talk about it amongst themselves. They really are. They are very all of them are very talented and very valuable to the show. Zach, as a sound guy, is like, there's just no other show that has like live show that does the kind of like live sound stuff that Zach does. All of their graphic design, all of their graphics, their social media, Love is very good with that. Dan is a very good producer. And so like a lot of the I feel like they have a lot of leverage on their side if things were not great, or if they were unhappy with that. They're adults. All of them are adults. It's a workplace. Sometimes things get heated in workplaces. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And I think like trying to delve into that and psychoanalyze that is very weird.
Obviously, you can receive, when you're a public facing figure as well, like Cameron was on the show, you can receive job offers like just randomly, right? Like via email, via whatever. I just wonder, I feel like he was applying for jobs to get that offer. Because I think in the industry that he's in, you have to submit portfolios and stuff.
Yeah, because he wanted to move back. I think he wanted to move back east. He didn't want to be in LA. There were like many reasons that he gave. And that's fine. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, Ethan's a horrible person and Cam wanted to get away. It may have been, may not have been. People change jobs so many times throughout their lives, and it can be because they want to move. It can be because they want to go in a different direction. There's just so many different things it can be. And it may have been that like he didn't want to be like a public facing figure so much anymore. Who knows? But like assuming things about it is weird and uncalled for, I think.
That's just my tinfoil hat theory, though, in that regard. Then Sam left, and the vibe of Cameron leaving versus the vibe of Sam leaving was very different. Cameron was very apologetic. He was very sad. Sam was sort of like a moving on to better things because she began working for Cutie Cinderella. And in that Cutie Cinderella clip of the chestnuts thing, and maybe I'll have the image on screen or I'll play the clip or whatever, Sam is visibly extremely upset at Ethan while this is happening. It appears recently that Sam has moved across the country, presumably back to Georgia. So I don't know if she's still working with Cutie Cinderella. She might just be done with the whole California thing in general, especially because her and Ian broke up. So I think she just kind of wants to leave. But I wonder about that too. Then you get to the Hasan videos. So what it began from was Ethan Klein started posting Instagram stories with Hasan clips claiming that he is platforming anti-Semitism, Hasan specifically. A big focus.
So we're getting into this now, and I want to say up front, this video in particular here, it is made by an H3 fan, so there's some bias there to be aware of, but it is a large compilation of clips that, like, if you're genuinely interested in knowing like what Ethan has said or what his positions are on this whole situation, you can watch that. And you know, if you're wanting to approach this in good faith, I think that is worth doing. It gives a lot of context to everything, which is something that she doesn't do here. And I think that she is going to mischaracterize a lot of what has transpired or what Ethan has said or what he believes. And there's a lot of context in that video, that compilation video, that will kind of clear that up and kind of show what I'm going to talk about as well.
Of Hasan's content is being very pro-Palestinian. And this is something that Hasan has been doing for years and years and years. He says it's about 10 years of public advocacy. Now, you can say what you want about Hasan, you can say what you want about Ethan. I personally like the secret third option, Sam Cedar. I'm a Sam Cedar stan, I fear. Has he ever done wrong? I don't know. Tell it to your mom. I don't care. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I do actually, I love Sam Cedar. Anyway, that's my secret third option. People are like, oh, it's Hasan or Ethan. I'm like, Sam Cedar. Anyway, so he started talking about how Hasan essentially platforming anti-Semitism on the Twitch platform. I think a lot of this stemming from Frogan being his mod. Somebody who Ethan Klein hates because Frogan was tweeting about October 7th. Ethan Klein disagreed with a lot of her takes. He unfollowed Frogan. Frogan noticed and talked about it in Discord and essentially said that she would like to support Zionism if that means Ethan Klein would follow her back. As these sort of progress, you get into what people have been referring to as the Instagram story.
So what happened with Frogan is she was basically like supportive of what happened on October 7th. And there's like nuanced understandings of October 7th and of just like Palestinian resistance in general. Like, you can hold at the same time that Palestinians have a right to resist against their oppressor, while also understanding that going out and killing innocent civilians, children, is not a legitimate way to resist, and is going to actually be counterproductive. It's going to make things worse for Palestinians. But a lot of white leftists, colonial Americans believe in by any means necessary. And so they cheer what happened October 7th. They cheer on Palestinians or, Hamas doing literally whatever they want in the name of fighting Israel. Ethan took issue with those things that Frogan was saying, and he quietly unfollowed her. And to be clear, Frogan was the one that made it a public issue, which then Ethan then responded to publicly, and there's been back and forth with them ever since.
Story crash out. This has been her back. As these sort of progress, you get into what people have been referring to as the Instagram story crash out. This has been something that a lot of people have DM'd me wanting to know about. And I've talked
Really
about it in private with people, like with text messages and stuff, because some of them have just been so heinous that I'm just like absolutely caught aback by this thing's like the existence of these posts. So one thing he focuses on is this one Yemeni teenager that Hasan interviewed, who Hasan claims is not a Houthi, who Ethan claims is a Houthi, and then
so he is almost 100% a Houthi. I'm going to recommend this video here, this little documentary on who the Houthis are and what they are currently doing. And then I just want to juxtapose that with Hasan saying that he believes that the Houthis are doing what Luffy would do, the One Piece pirates.
Antisar Al-Hamadi, a model, actor, and social media influencer, was also at the shoot. The Houthis detained the women right on the street and locked them up without an arrest warrant.
There's no woman who didn't experience torture in prison, who wasn't dragged across the floor by her hair, or handcuffed for hours on end, or put in solitary confinement for days. You can see the scars on my body. The Houthis use batons and electric shocks. I was tortured because I couldn't follow their orders. I couldn't comply. For the simple reason that I was raised as a human being with dignity.
Yusra saw several suicides in prison. She herself tried to end her life. Their captors then offered the women a deal. If they agreed to help compromise the Houthis' political enemies using sex and drugs, they go free. Both women refused.
He's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way! Dude, we think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
The One Piece pirates were just like fun-loving adventurers who tend to fight for the oppressed wherever they go. That's not the case. They are a de facto government. They rule their area with an iron fist. They jail women for not wearing their hijabs correctly. And in those jails, they torture and rape them. They jail journalists for trying to report on what's happening, and they torture them. And if you are a part of the Houthis, you can live relatively well. If you are not, if you are Yemeni and you are not a part of the Houthis, then you are very oppressed. And there's about 5 million displaced Yemeni people that the Houthis rule over, and they are, I would say, committing a genocide against them. They are blocking humanitarian aid from them. They are not allowing water to get in. They are not allowing supplies to get in. They are constantly, actively targeting these people. Kids that are trying to go to school every day are often either shot or step on landmines. I encourage you to go watch that video and see what the Houthi people are doing, what the Yemeni people who are living there think about the Houthis. And if you are interested in approaching this in good faith, and then that will give you an understanding as to why Ethan is so concerned with Hasan simping for the Houthi people, for these this de facto government. And Hasan knows all this. He does. He's not stupid. He doesn't think that they're just like a ragtag band of pirates. He knows who they are. Okay. And this kid, who is 19, 20 or so, He is on social media, and like I'm just telling you, like once you get the context, you will know that he like people would not get into the places that he's been in, would not have access to like the hostages, would not have access to being able to like be somewhat of a spokesman for the Houthi people if he was not a Houthi himself. Okay. If he was not involved with them, he may not be, you know, an outright soldier. He may not be committing acts of violence, but he is involved with him, and he is very anti-Semitic. Okay. And Hasan himself said when he interviewed him that he seems very media trained, which is true. Okay. But when he is not like talking to a Westerner, you know, he posts things like a Jewish person getting spiked from the bottom up and said, this is what we will do to every Jew. And, you know, Houthis are bad. Crazy take. Houthis are bad. Okay. And when you get that context, then you can kind of understand more why it's so bothersome to Ethan, and should be bothersome to everyone, on Hasan's stance towards the Houthis.
Ethan pulls up all these different posts and stuff, and then claims that all these the Yemeni kids are Houthi, and Houthi people hate Jews and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of nuance.
They do. Their flag is death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews. That anti-Semitism is like baked into what they believe. They believe in like the protocols of the Elders of Zion. They are like deniers. They just are very anti-Semitic. Okay, they just are.
So that obviously there's a lot of nuances to the Yemeni teenager as well. I don't want to really get into that because I think that would take a lot more digging than this conversation I want to have is requiring. And I think
so. That's an issue for me. Like she didn't mind digging in Snark subreddits for petty bullshit, but when you're going to come out and talk about like whether this kid might be a Houthi rebel or a part of the government there, you're too lazy to go and fact check that.
I think is something that I want you to be able to discern on your own. But
I agree with that. Discern on your own. Go watch that documentary. Go do some research on the Houthis, and then just think for yourself if the Houthis would allow someone to like be the face of their organization who was not actually the face of their organization. If they would allow someone to have access to the hostages, if they were not a part of the organization. Go look at some of the other things that he posts and discern for yourself whether you think that he is anti-Semitic or if he is a member of the Houthis.
But there ends up just being more posts, right? So Ethan Klein does this show where he condemns this episode where he condemns Hasan, talks about all this proof that he has, that he platforms anti-Semitism, and then starts saying many Jewish friends and family.
Okay, so that was a big yada yada. He did pretty much a whole episode. There was 3 main points that he had, and they mainly had to do with him platforming anti-Semitism, simping for terrorists, which is just all true. He sourced everything. He laid everything out very well, I think. And also that he denies that rapes took place on October 7th, which he has flaked on this several times. At times, he has outright denied that any rapes took place on October 7th. Other times, he has kind of conceded that, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 happened, but he very much downplays it, which is just doesn't make sense. There's an entire UN report on it. The only thing that is in question is whether or not it was like a systematic thing, whether it was like ordered from the top down. We don't know. It may have been, it may not have been. What we do know is that there was widespread rapes that took place in several different locations throughout the attack on October 7th. And, you know, the standard of evidence is the same for attacks like the Deir Yassin massacre, which Hasan like fully believes everything that took place during that massacre, including rapes as well. And so he is selective on what he believes, depending on whether it's having to do with Israel or the Palestinians.
I'll have this picture on screen too, obviously. Many Jewish friends and family have
But yeah, that was kind of, that episode was kind of like the big nuke. There was like some little things here and there between Hasan and Ethan the whole year. And Ethan the whole time was very adamant that like he was still like friendly with Hasan and whatnot. And he said that he like tried to reach out to him privately beforehand, and he, Hasan ignored him. And yeah, and I have like my criticisms of the way Ethan has handled some things during this whole thing, but I kind of, a lot of it I chalk up to like it's a very emotional topic, and he has like direct ties to the situation there. And so I'm somewhat understanding of that, but I do believe there's criticisms to be made. I have some of my own, but that episode in particular, I fully support everything that he said there. I think that his arguments were very valid and well sourced and true, and I encourage you to watch that video for more context, again, if this is something you're interested in approaching from good faith.
Reach out to thank me for the show today. I want to thank them for their kind words. I encourage you guys to please check in on your Jewish friends. I think you'll be surprised the amount of anxiety, fear, and isolation they're experiencing, and how genuinely happy they are that you ask. Cheers, and thanks you guys for watching. So a huge premise of this Hasan episode 2 was something that I was very frustrated when I was looking at, where one of the claims that Ethan Klein kind of hinges on is that anti-Semitism is something that is accepted in society, but all other forms of racism are not. So there's three main aspects here. For one, Ethan Klein.
So he didn't really make that claim. I'm not sure that he made that claim at all. Hasan was the one that made the claim that anti-Arabism or Islamophobia is very accepted in society, but like anti-Semitism is not. And that's just not true. Anti-Semitism is just like rampant right now on Twitter, like on the right and on the left. It just is, okay? And we'll get into that a little bit more in a second, but I don't think that was Ethan's original claim, but he didn't say that. He didn't say that. I don't believe. He did say in response to Hasan saying that like Hasan very much downplayed anti-Semitism and was like, yeah, it's not accepted in society in the same way that like Islamophobia is. And Ethan was like, I don't think that's true. I think it's pretty accepted. And I think that you yourself are kind of supporting that. And Ethan has been consistent the whole time that he does not believe that Hasan himself is anti-Semitic, but believes that he has platformed it and kind of simped over it. And I feel like leftists have this idea in their head, not all, but like a lot of them, especially who are like Hasan fans, have this idea in their head that anti-Semitism can only come like from the right, and they're like, oh, that's just like a Nick Fuentes KKK kind of thing. Like that's not us. Like we're just anti-Zionist. That's all we are. And yes, there is a difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, but there is like rampant anti-Semitism among the left, and a lot of it is just an excuse to hate on Jewish people. And like when it comes to the right, they can totally understand dog whistles. They can totally understand like microaggressions and whatnot. But when it comes to like anti-Semitism on their part, they just like are utterly oblivious or just ignorant on it. And it's something, it's a problem. It is a problem. And so I don't think Ethan has ever like tried to downplay Islamophobia or any other sort of racism. He has just defended the fact that anti-Semitism is very accepted right now. Like it's blown up on Twitter, and we'll get into more of it in a second as well.
Claims that 90% of Jews are Zionists. Secondly, the claim that using the word term Zionist is in turn anti-Semitic. So these two things end up being linked, right? Tertiarily, there's the claim of anti-Semitism being the worst and being the highest rise and being whatever. Now, obviously.
So no, he's not said like anti-Semitism is the worst of all the racisms or whatever. It is on the rise though. What else is she saying?
That using the word term Zionist is in turn anti-Semitic.
Okay, so it can be a dog whistle. It can be a substitute for Jew. And in the way that you talk about it as well, because the majority of Jewish people are Zionists, and for like the majority of people who are Zionist, for them it just means that Israel should exist, or Israel has a right to exist, or it should not be destroyed. That's Ethan's position. He just believes that it should not be destroyed. He also believes that it should not, its existence should not be predicated off of the extermination or the oppression of Palestinian people. But he believes that it has a right to exist. And that is the majority of Jewish people. And so when you are talking about the majority of Jewish people, you need to think about how you're talking about that. It would be similar to Islamophobia. There are very valid critiques that can be made of Islam, but they can very much turn into dog whistles to become anti-Arab. And so that's just something to consider. And it can be the same thing with Zionism and Jewish people. That's just it. And it often does become that on the left, especially if you see people calling people Zios. That abbreviation, that is originally from just like a straight up, he is not. And it's very much used as a pejorative. So like I said, like there's just, the left are great at understanding dog whistles and microaggressions and everything on the right. They are not great at admitting it or acknowledging it on the left at all.
So these two things end up being linked, right? Tertiarily, there's the claim of anti-Semitism being the worst and being the highest rise and being whatever. Now, obviously, anti-Semitism as a concept is very ingrained into Western culture and in cultures around the world, which is really, really obviously evil and unfortunate and tragic, right? And again, I've talked about this when I talk about fringe conspiracy theories, I talk about right-wing politics, I talk about the red pill, I talk about all that kind of stuff. So I've demonstrated that as a fact in the conversations I've had before. The thing is, and this was the same argument I had with somebody in my personal life last Christmas, was, sure, yes, but you also think being Arab in America is a cakewalk.
Okay, so this is like this is incredibly dumb. Like, I can't comprehend this argument. I feel like it's dumb to draw like parallels, but like I just imagine this with any other race or group of people. Like I imagine this like during COVID, if it like Asian hate, crimes against Asian people being like super on the rise, and somebody is like talking about it and talking about like, trying to raise awareness of it, and then somebody comes along and be like, yeah, but do you think that like being black in America is a cakewalk? We like George Floyd was just murdered, like, and you're going to talk about Asian hate? Like it's I can't comprehend this argument.
I think this is a new,
especially because Ethan has like acknowledged anti-Arabism, has acknowledged Islamophobia, has condemned it, has talked about it. He does not think that like one is like more important or less important than the other.
Nuance that's missing in most of Ethan Klein's conversations. And when we talk about these types of things and these differences, I bring up a Bill Maher video. My best friend who oh
my God. All right, so what she's about to do here. So just for context, this year, there has been I believe it's 140% rise in anti-Semitic violence against Jewish people in the United States alone. That's not counting harassment. That's not counting online harassment. That's not counting just shit people say on Twitter. 140% increase this year. And then she is going to juxtapose that with a Bill Maher joke from like 2019 to be like, okay, yeah, like huge, massive increase in anti-Semitic violence, but Did you see this joke that Bill Maher made years ago? Okay. And like, I do not like Bill Maher. And I think that a lot of his criticisms of Islam are abrasive, but also some of them are accurate. But this is just so lacking of nuance. There's just no nuance here. Like, Ethan is talking about anti-Semitism, the rise in it, and you just want to downplay that. That's all you want to do. That's all. That's the only purpose of this. And you're not even doing it well. You're just saying, sure, there's a massive rise in anti-Semitism, but did you see this joke that Bill Maher made? I don't get it. I don't get it. Where's the, and again, Ethan has talked about anti-Arabism. He has talked about Islamophobia, like the idea that he just like does not have a right to talk about it, or like has to equally talk about it as much as Islamophobia. I don't get what the point is here. I don't get what the point is here. I'm sorry.
I definitely don't want to play Minecraft with Bill Maher.
Okay, there again. What great use of the Minecraft meme.
Bill Maher did a video, and I'm going to look up right now on my computer as I'm saying this, what year this was. Because I just saw it on Twitter recently. What was it called? So this was a video from, 11 months ago. Oh my God. Okay. I lied. Well, I didn't lie. Bill Maher posted it on his YouTube channel 11 months ago. So he's still co-signed it. Okay. So this is still fully co-signed.
Okay. My bad. I looked it up. It was actually from 2010. Okay. And I don't know. There's definitely some critiques to be had there. Apparently there was like a news story of Saudi Arabia having their first fashion show, and he like basically his show was like a big joke on that, talking about had like, you know, people coming out in burqas with like bare ankles, stuff like that, and he like conflated a lot of different regions, and yeah, there's probably some Islamophobia and anti-Arabism in there. Also some, I think, genuine critiques. And so, yeah, like you just don't, Ethan at no point has tried to like downplay Islamophobia or anti-Arabism. So I don't know what the point is here.
Which is clipped from the But I'm Not Wrong HBO stand-up comedy special. Now, I'm not going to link it because I hate Bill Maher. And I'm also not going to, I don't want anybody to really look at it. And I can't clip it because I'm going to get claimed by HBO. But all I'm going to do is just put a still image on the screen. This flew, and didn't only fly, was incredibly successful. This is a representation in the media on HBO of mocking hijabi women. If you wear burqas and all that kind of stuff, right? Being Muslim, a big part of it too, right? Because Bill Maher's whole shtick is the zero IQ take of, if you believe in a religion, you're an idiot. Despite the fact that all of my arguments as Bill Maher hinge on the exact same structural, conceptual frameworks, and I've never had an original thought in my life. But my father-in-law's gonna watch this and I'm gonna have a really bad Christmas. Anyway, there is even a line where essentially a girl shows her ankles, like, because they're also all too short, which is besides the point. And then he like makes a joke about how she'll like be unalived, if you will, right? These representations can exist in American media and be openly accepted. I've known people in my personal life that are from like rural areas that will see a person who is a hijabi, for example, and then be worried that they're going to be unalived by them via like extremist terrorist tactics. I'm not going to get into that because I think it's just so heinous to even discuss. Islamophobia is so intensely ingrained in especially post 9/11 North American culture, but also Western culture, that I just genuinely don't understand the cognitive dissonance. Ethan Klein also,
like where's the cognitive dissonance on Ethan's part? Where is him downplaying anti-Arabism? Why is him talking about the 140% increase in anti-Semitic violence this year? Why does that downplay anti-Arabism or Islamophobia? Why? I'm not trying to compare these two, right? But like, this is much closer to like Islamophobia and anti-Arabic sentiment, like directly after 9/11, right? Like Anti-Semitism is bad right now, and it's okay to talk about it. And it's okay for a Jewish person to talk about it more because it's directly affecting them than any other issue of racism. It's okay, right? As long as they are not like trying to downplay any other kind of racism or denying any other kind of racism, which Ethan is not doing. There's no cognitive dissonance there. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand, right? And just to be clear, you go watch that Houthi documentary I showed you. Women who do not wear their burqas correctly will be jailed, will be tortured, will be raped in that jail. It does happen. And there's probably better ways to shine a light on that and give commentary on that than Bill Maher does, but it does happen and it's worth talking about. And Islamophobia is a terrible thing. You should learn about Muslim people and how vastly different they are in different regions, especially in America. There's so many wonderful Muslim people. There really are. And as with any religion, with Christianity, with any religion, it can be and often is used to oppress people. And that is not okay. And it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed. But, obviously discriminating against people because of their religion is not okay. And you should not be ignorant about Muslim people, especially Western Muslim people that you may live around. You should educate yourself on that.
Also goes off about this FBI statistic about hate crimes to certain marginalized groups, putting all these statistics to be like the Jewish struggle is the undermined one.
So like his point is that like on the right and the left right now, anti-Semitism is like, if you're on the left and you're not like anti-Semitic yourself, there are so many people who just do not care about it at all. Like this person right here. She talked about in the beginning how she is like talked about anti-Semitism and doesn't like it, but I really feel like she thinks that it's not a big issue and that it's not an issue at all on the left. I really think that.
Media representations like this can exist, like all of George Bush's presidency can exist.
Like there's just no denial of that on his part. But we're talking about George Bush 20 fucking years ago versus the last year and all the context of what has happened this year and what Jewish people across the world have gone through because of what's happening in a small area of the world. And it's just like, I don't understand why she's saying like, I don't understand why she feels like there's cognitive dissonance on Ethan's part for talking about this.
The sentiments towards people from the Middle East still exist. And I just think
obviously
that there's a dissonance there.
There's not.
And that dissonance is the main point of frustration with that audience. Because it's one thing for Ethan Klein to go, I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu, I don't like what's going on in Palestine, I don't like any of this. But to then, every other statement is an argument against the people who support it.
Okay, so again, this is another thing here. Like, his arguments are not directed at people who are pro-Palestine because they are pro-Palestine. That's not it, right? His arguments are directed at people who are platforming or engaging in anti-Semitism, who are platforming or simping for terrorists. And I think that, like, as much as I do have criticisms of Ethan and whatever you think of him, I think that he is a good moderating voice among the center left on this issue, right? Because it seems like for so many of these people, like there's so many of these people that like did not know about any of this until this year, until the last year. And it's just become a pet issue for them, a passion project that they will forget about by next year. Okay. Sorry. I mean, there's going to be a lot that like continually advocate for Palestine, but there's a lot that this is just a pet issue for them. And it becomes almost like a religious fundamentalism for them. Like you have to be with them on every single point, or you are a heretic. You're either 100% aligned with their doctrine, or you are 100% against them. And like, there's just no nuance here. There's no nuance here, right? Like Ethan's position is essentially the exact same as Hasan's position before October 7th. And Hasan's position was a two-state solution, which is, by the way, really the only viable solution at this time. But honestly, I don't have a strong opinion on it, because I'm a fucking white colonial motherfucker living in America, right? But for some reason, there's nothing that white leftists love to do more than fuck around with people's borders, right? And so for some reason, they feel like they have a right to dictate to these people how they should set up their borders, how they should set up their government, and that's just not our place. I think they need space to be able to figure out what they want to do. Whatever they want to do, that's on them. They need the space to be able to do that. I think that both sides need different leadership. I think that there needs to be some sort of third party that comes in to help govern the area of Gaza, preferably not America. And like, regardless of what happens, it's going to take like at least a generation for there to really be peace, because there's just so much hatred between both sides. And a lot of it is justified. But the leadership on both sides is feeding into that and playing off of that and making it so that there is never going to be any sort of solution long term. There's just never going to be. And I feel like leftists, a lot of them, just want to be a cheerleader for Hamas and cheerlead them on like the rest of the world has done, to just fight incessantly, continually, forever, until they're wiped out. And that's what's going to happen. There's never going to be peace with Hamas in power. There's never going to be peace with Benjamin Netanyahu or the conservative government in power either. It's just so, leftists always say that it's not a complex thing. And in a sense, it's not, right? Palestinians are being killed, and that should stop. They're being blockaded, and they don't have independence or dignity. They should have those things. But getting there from where we are now to that is very complex. And the dynamics of what has happened over the past 75 years is very complex, okay? And if you don't really like want to get into all of that and learn all of that, that's fine, but just don't be so fucking dogmatic about it. As someone living in the West who has made this their pet issue, don't be so dogmatic about it and so like ready to attack other people who like say something that sounds a little different than what you're used to, okay?
Because of the 10% of things you don't agree on, you openly attack pro-Palestinian creators on a regular basis. Demand that their sponsors be taken away, demand that their revenue be taken away, demand their platform be taken away. The actions aren't aligning properly.
So to my knowledge, he has never like wanted to try to get people's sponsors taken away, or for like, he has openly said he doesn't want like Hasan to be banned or anything. He has just directly said like, hey, you're platforming anti-Semitism. Here are the areas in which you are directly breaking Twitch's terms of service. I would like for that to be, consistent. I would like for that to be taken seriously. But beyond that, like he has had very valid criticisms and I would not call them attacks.
Because I think the biggest issue is Ethan Klein often talks about the eradication of the Jewish people being an ideology of the Houthi, of Hezbollah, whatever. Which again, people being an ideology. The biggest issue is Ethan Klein often talks about the eradication of the Jewish people being an ideology of the Houthi, of Hezbollah, whatever.
It is. It is. It is.
Which again, are instances of that being true. Yes. But doesn't seem to also acknowledge that it is not right for the preservation of Israel to come at the cost of other people.
He does. He does. He does not believe that. He doesn't believe that. He has denied that so many times. He has condemned what they're doing. He doesn't believe that. Right? I just don't understand. Like, you're getting all your sources from a Snark Reddit. You haven't watched them for the past year. You don't know what you're talking about. Again, go watch that video that I referenced with all the different clips. You will learn what Ethan's positions are, what he believes. He believes that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. He believes that the Palestinian people deserve independence and dignity and peace. There's just nothing going on up here in this video. And I feel like we should expect better from her, given her education, given a lot of her other videos, which are very well researched and sourced. This is not good.
Because he always says they want 8 million Jewish people to be displaced from Israel. And then that's the biggest issue, which again, I don't think is a lot of the arguments that a lot of people have. Are there, of course, people who are anti-Semitic?
No, people don't. It's not an argument that people make. The arguments that people, they don't acknowledge what would happen if their arguments or if what they are wanting takes place. They're not acknowledging the reality of what a one-state solution would do. They're not acknowledging the reality of what Hamas wants to do, which would wipe out Israel. It just would, right? And it's not that they are, a lot of them are advocating for that, but it's not that a lot of them are advocating for that. They're just not, they're just ignorant, and they don't understand the dynamics of the history there. They don't understand what would happen. They think that they think that everything would be fine in a one-state solution, and it just would not at this point.
Semitic on the left that are saying yes, but also that doesn't mean that your arguments, your absolute arguments, are correct either. You see what I'm saying? That there is, to a certain degree, a nuance to these things, and a nuance that I'm so scared of, that I'm not.
I feel like Ethan has been, as Hasan likes to say, the term he likes to use, infinitely charitable towards the other side. I think he totally understands the Palestinian cause. Yeah,
Relaying properly.
I think that he is the one that really provides nuance in the discussion, and is like bringing in like the Jewish perspective and a more moderated perspective than more extremist leftist or more extreme conservative people. I think he's the one that is bringing nuance here, and obviously there's going to be people on both sides of the extreme that are going to disagree and hate him for that. But like the idea that he is just like not been sensitive to the Palestinian cause at all, the idea that he has not been sensitive to Islamophobia or anti-Arabism is just not true. It's just not true.
But the preservation of the Jewish people in Israel should not be coming at the cost of Palestinians.
That is literally Ethan Klein's belief. That's what he believes. And if you were not so fucking lazy and took the time to like really understand what he believes, or you weren't lazy and you're just like being bad faith here, then you would understand that.
Shouldn't be coming at the cost of Lebanese people. Shouldn't be coming at the cost of Yemeni people. And that's the main point the audience isn't liking, because Ethan is.
If they believe that, then they're just idiots. They don't understand what Ethan believes. They hear Ethan Here's the real thing, okay? What they don't like is Ethan being so sympathetic towards Jewish people. That's what they don't like, right? Ethan is 100% pro-Palestinian. He is. But he's also Jewish and doesn't like when innocent Jewish people are killed. That's it. That's the whole thing, right? They don't like that. They don't like that. There is no him supporting Arab or Palestinian people being killed to further the state of Israel. He believes that Israeli settlers are 100% valid combat targets. All of them, right? That's a very left-wing position. I don't know what to tell you. If people believe that about Ethan, they're idiots and they're not worth listening to.
Seems to be pushing the contrary. And you can add in your little anecdote that you don't like it, but when everything else surrounding it seems to not relate, that's why people are feeling the way that they're feeling. Ethan Klein requests nuance for his takes, but asserts his own opinions on others. For example, the Twitch panel with the Love Sabra category talking about the Habibi pass. This is a joke that can be taken.
All right, let's have this white person come in and dictate to Jewish and Arab people about anti-Semitism. That's great. That's what I want to hear. I'm sorry. That was meant as a dog whistle on that panel there. It was meant derogatorily. And yeah, sorry. Sponsors seem to have not liked it. They got banned for a month for it. All Ethan did was talk about it. Sorry.
Taken too far. It is also a joke that I've seen in other contexts. Hasan brought up a tier list of having, for example, with Black Americans, who's invited to the cookout versus something like people who make box mac and cheese or something. I can't remember the analogy, but anyway. Also, Ethan Klein uplifts creators recently that do not support Palestine.
Okay, this is fucking stupid and not true.
For example, Lonerbox, who's like this with Destiny, who literally debated Norman Finkelstein on the fact that the genocide is okay.
Okay, so let's bring in clips. Let's bring in evidence that Lonerbox is anti-Palestinian and very pro-Israel, because that's not the case at all. He is very pro-Palestinian. He is a somewhat of a historian. He believes in facts, and so he does not accept a lot of the exaggerated claims that happen around this situation. He looks into the facts, but he is staunchly pro-Palestinian. He is Lebanese. His family is in Lebanon right now. He is being affected by Israel's actions. As far as his connection with Destiny, he has debated Destiny on a lot of Destiny's positions on Israel. He disagrees with a lot on Destiny regarding Israel-Palestine. He is very much further to the left. But again, she's not going to show any proof that he is not pro-Palestinian or that he is pro-Israel. She's just going to associate or just talk about his association with Destiny, and that's all we're going to get. And again, if you are any sort of even aesthetically a step out of step with these people, then you are 100% against them in their mind. And that's just how it is. There's no nuance there. There's no grace or understanding there on their part. There's no interest in looking into what these people actually believe.
And I'm gonna have a little bit of censoring because I want the video to have reach and not get age restricted. But they're just contrary to each other, right? Lonerbox specifically pissed me off because, for example, and this is a clip that was circling as well, Lena, AB, and Olivia ask about aid. They ask about the civilians, and Lonerbox just keeps going, well, I'm not understanding your question, and then just dancing around it because he doesn't have an answer. Because it's morally reprehensible.
So yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that he like. They're basically asking him like, "How do we solve this?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's a hard thing to solve. Like, it's not. There's no clear answer here. They need like, yeah, Israel needs to stop. Like, but you know, but he talked about this afterward. He is on the autism spectrum and has a hard time with like expressing empathy, or like he comes off very cold sometimes, and he admitted that afterwards. And also just like is a very like analytical person, and like he just was not understanding their question like genuinely. And he tried to talk about like other things, and it's like not really what they were like. There was just a misunderstanding there. Okay. And that's what happened. It's not like he was trying to support any of Israel's actions.
There's also the concept of grouping Jewish people with Zionism that many people pointed out in itself can be deemed as anti-Semitic. I think Ethan Klein has openly attacked anti-Zionist Jewish people, such as someone who was hosting or who was on Hasan's stream. He also says that it's really it's giving gaslighting, and it's really demeaning for people to suggest that Ethan Klein talks to a Jewish person. It's because you keep saying when people criticize you that they don't understand because they're not Jewish. So then they go, okay.
He doesn't say that, but also it's just like, I like, again, I just want you to imagine like swap in any other race. You have a black person that's like talking about racism, or like just a black person that's talking about something, and you're like, I don't think you're right there. It's tokenizing. Okay, it's tokenizing. If you have a good argument for your position, it doesn't matter what race you are. Like, he doesn't need to go talk to Sam Cedar about his positions. Like, it's like, if you can't make the argument, then it's not going to happen, right? Like, Ethan is not going to agree with Sam Cedar either. Okay, it's just like, hey, I have a black friend here who I think has the right position on this issue. You should talk to him about it. Okay, it's very condescending. It's tokenizing. I don't understand how people like this would not understand that.
Okay, well then talk to a Jewish person. There are anti-Zionist Jews, Sam Cedar. And he won't do it. So it's like you're just constantly saying, all I want to, essentially relaying, it's like all you want to do is complain. And all you want to do is just be agreed with. Which I guess to a certain degree everybody wants. I just think that's as much of the politics I can get into. But things have clearly been going badly. And people have also been joking a lot about how Ethan Klein, like, enemies have begun to like supersede him. And this has continued on the Instagram crash out, and I have screenshots for that too. Such as Trisha Paytas going on SNL, and apparently Broadway. I'm not sure about the Broadway one, like how the logistics of that whole thing. Hasan also did a speech about Israel and Palestine at Cambridge University. And
Hasan, his views have also been going down. I would not say he is like on the up and up.
Talking about Trisha, people have been claiming that Ethan Klein has made the segment about him, saying that he thinks it's really bad that the stories often being posted where Trisha Paytas' ex-podcast host said he cut off his arm if she ended up on SNL, and now he's got to cut off his arm. So people have been talking about how Ethan...
Why are we talking... What, like, is this a tea channel? Is this gossip? Like, why are we talking about what people have been talking about? Because that's not what happened on that show. I mean, it kind of was. Like, he was like... He did say, like, I wish it wasn't, like, the focus was on me. Like, there is this meme that he is, like, always jealous of Trisha, but, like, that's just not true. Like, he was genuinely, like, happy for her, proud for her, and was, like, unhappy that, like, this was, like, a lot of media was making it about him or about, like, their relationship, when it's just, like, I think that's good for her that she did that, and I wish that that would be focused on. But she's getting all her information from the Snark Reddit, so we're going to have a very skewed representation of what that was.
Klein is essentially like miserable and pandering and whining and whatever.
People are saying that people are saying that that's what happened. You could research for yourself. You could do that instead of going on Snark subreddits.
So he started weirdly posting on his Instagram story just stuff like, everything is pointless, about to enter my Joker era, and then has this as his...
Yeah, because he's not bitter. and he's like was genuinely happy for her, but like nobody. It's just like all about this meme, and he's just like, what's the point?
His gotcha, which it seems to have been the vibe of a lot of recent months. Psych spelt wrong, bitch, I'm glowing. Again, reminiscent of the vibe that there's a deep insecurity and fear. And Ethan Klein.
Why are we psychoanalyzing here? I don't. What's the point of this? Is this Nuance? This is Nuance? Okay.
Also revealed that the revenue from November had gone down 10% from the previous, what was their lowest month by 10% or whatever since this year for the podcast. Now, I don't think people realize how serious that is because it's November. Last month, I made 3 videos, I think. Not a lot of videos. We did not make a lot of videos in November. I was tired. I transitioned jobs very, very late October. So I made one on October 28th. 1, 2, 3, 4 videos in November. I made double what I made most months in November. And obviously I had a video get over 100,000 views, which is pretty base and epic. Thank you for that, by the way. So that obviously helped. But double is not proportionate. So if your revenue is lower in November, that means it's going to be exponentially lower come January. November should never be your worst month. November and December you should be juicing on nothing. I'm also, again, just the 2 videos I've put out this month, 2 videos, it is projecting that I will again make double what I make in a normal month.
Yeah, so he's talked about this, and I think he is fine to shed more like leftist extremist parts of his audience. And I don't think it's like they're fine financially. They're fine. And they will likely bounce back. But I think it is probably like a mix of people, you know, who have strong feelings on this, not really wanting to watch anymore. And then also people who just like don't really care and are just like tired of it being brought up all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's commendable that he is willing to stand on his principles, even when it's incredibly unpopular, and when it's, you know, unpopular with a lot of his audience. And I think it's kind of gross to like characterize it as him having some sort of mental episode or crashing out. I think that's gross. And I think that like, if you don't like him, then move on. Stop talking about him. It's weird. It's weird to stop liking someone and stop watching their content and then just like go spend all your time on a Snark subreddit and then end up watching their content again and just like hate watching it and looking for any little thing. It's weird behavior. It's crash out, mentally unwell behavior. Okay.
I also forgot to mention, and this is where I'll end off my last thing, it's my personal leaving point, which again does not contribute well to Ethan's claims. Aaron Bushnell last year
does not get contributed well to Ethan's claims. What does that mean? Okay, so and then the what she's about to say here, the Aaron Bushnell thing, this is one of the criticisms I have. I don't like how the Aaron Bushnell thing was received by a lot of leftists, but I think that Ethan's coverage of it was insensitive and flippant. Yeah.
Or earlier this year, might have been January. I'll actually look up the date of that. February 25th of this year. So this is when I checked out. Aaron Bushnell self-immolated. Self-immolation means to set yourself on fire in protest. Ethan Klein, and I was actually a member at this time because what happened was when the BBTV fallout happened in 2023, Ethan Klein was talking about it on his members' videos. So I signed up for the membership. And then I forgot that I had it. And then I tried to cancel it a couple times on my PC and it wouldn't work. It would just refresh and I would still be joined and it wouldn't work. Month and month and month. I would just randomly remember because I was told that you couldn't cancel it on your phone. One day I tried on my phone and it instantly worked. Right after this Aaron Bushnell stuff. When I was like, you know what, I'm done with everything. I'm unsubscribing the whole 9. Because of the comments that Ethan Klein was making, essentially mocking Aaron Bushnell's efforts and the impact that he had. And if I could find the clip on that, I'll insert it here.
My first reaction is this. It was absolutely insane how he like stood the whole time. That was crazy. I don't know how that's humanly possible. I Again, not to put this uncouth, but he's a champ at burning lives. I mean, that sounds bad, but he did it really good. Does that sound bad? We have to make levity of things. Does that sound bad that he's really good? I mean, but I mean that as a compliment. What the f are you guys angry about, you weirdos? What did they do? My God, stop. They just say, all I hear is Ethan no, but I don't understand why they even said.
So, like, I don't think he's, like, bad or evil for this. It's just, the dude is a comedian. He makes jokes about literally everything he talks about. I don't know what you expect. And these people are fine to listen to this guy for years, joke about all kinds of things that are sensitive, and they're totally fine with it until something like this comes along. And it's like, I don't know. I think, like, I don't know. There's something about it that, like, rubbed me the wrong way, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't think you're, like, a terrible person for this. There's much worse things he could have said, and it was just like, yeah, I mean, he did that really well. That was crazy that he just, like, stood there. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a valid thing to criticize him for. I think it's a valid thing to not want to watch him over anymore. But also, at the same time, I don't think it's that serious.
Disrespect of that effort and the mocking of the concept and the harshness and lack of humanity.
I don't think that he was mocking it or necessarily lacking humanity in the
really highlighted to me those feelings I had acquired from those other instances and the core of where I felt like they all came. And that was...
Yeah. That feeling you had when he showed Brittany Broski that prolapse, that came back to you with Aaron Bushnell, huh?
It's my end point. That was when I said, you know what, I'm having a lot of cognitive dissonance about this. And I don't appreciate this content. I don't appreciate how it makes me feel. I don't appreciate the impact that it has. So with that, I'm going to conclude, and hopefully my address doesn't end up on Reddit. This is just my nuanced conversation on my feelings about it. And I hope that you appreciated it. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye.
Cheers, loves.
Okay, I did not appreciate that. There was very little nuance in that, right? Like, basically what we just got was a rehash of the hit videos on Ethan Klein from 45 years ago, which there's a lot of valid criticism there, okay? But I don't get the purpose in rehashing all that. And then we got an utterly ignorant, totally lacking in nuance, totally lacking in facts, totally lacking in research or sources conversation on Ethan Klein's position on Israel-Palestine, and basically her just saying, yeah, no, I don't really like any of that. I don't like Ethan Klein anymore. So there's just like no, I don't know. And they always release these like right as the show is going on break. I feel like I it's like a coin toss to me of whether Ethan will talk about this or not. I don't think it's worth talking about. Like she did not bring up any new points. She did not bring up any like really necessarily valid points. Like I don't understand the purpose of this video. Like it should have been labeled, I don't like Ethan Klein anymore, and here's why. Like it wasn't. There's just no nuanced conversation here. So I'm not saying you have to like Ethan Klein. I'm not saying you have to agree with him. My biggest thing, like from the beginning of all this, is I just want people to be able to accurately describe what Ethan actually believes. If you don't like the way in which he's handled some of these topics, if you don't like some of the jokes that he's made, if you don't like how flippant he has been at times, or how aggressive he might have been towards like Frogan and stuff, that's all fine. Right, but when you start saying that he's like actively supports Nuance, that's just brain dead to me, okay? If you can't accurately describe or characterize his position, then why talk about it? Why talk about it? That's that. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.